Talking about Africa's independence history without mentioning Kenneth Kaunda can be a shoddy narrative.
Zambia does not have the capacity to strike back at the enemy because the enemy has been prepared for the last 60, 70 years, South Africa, for the last 54 years, Rhodesia.
He endured imprisonment and other forms of harassment, which were seen to be normal rites of passage for African nationalist leaders. This experience is said to have had radicalizing impact on Kenneth Kaunda's character.
That is the correct analysis of the problem. And unless you understand it in this way, you will be misled by the enemy. The enemy is bent on destroying your Morero, Zambians.
Born on 28th April 1924, Kenneth David Buchiza Kaunda, also known as KK, attended Munali Training Centre in Lusaka between 1941 to 1943. The youngest of 8 children, followed his father's footsteps as a teacher, a profession he held up to 1951. Here, he embarked on an independent struggle for his country, a struggle that was never smooth. He was imprisoned alongside his associate in Kumbula for 2 months with hard labor for distributing what was described as a seditious literature. But even when his colleague was compromised along the way, he never gave up. With imprisonment and harassment viewed as the rites of passage for African nationalist leaders, Kaunda persisted, ending up as the first president of independent Zambia in 1964.
But I'm a man with a conscience, clear conscience. God is hearing me. I can never sell out Africa. Never. Not me. Not these boys here. Not these girls here. We are men and women of principle. We have done all these things in search of peace. But it has to be genuine peace, based on sincere, genuine majority rule. Anything else, you can kill us. Zambians will be born out of our blood will continue to fight.
During his presidency, Kaunda oversaw a number of reforms, including acquisition of majority stakes in key foreign-owned companies. However, the oil crisis of 1973 and a fall in export revenues put Zambia in a state of economic crisis, perhaps one of the reasons why international pressure was mounted on him to change rules that had kept him in power. Multiparty elections took place in 1991, in which Frederick Chiluba, the leader of the movement for Multiparty Democracy, floored him. 8 years later, Kaunda would briefly be stripped of Zambian citizenship in 1999, but the decision was overturned a year later.
We in Zambia are peaceful people, peace-loving. I challenge anyone to say today here that Zambia is a warmongering nation. I met John Foster, the arch-fascist and racist, on the bridge, in search of peace. I failed.
His hatred for the apartheid regime was astonishing, a reason he praises former South African President Nelson Mandela for successfully fighting it.
God's commandment is love your neighbor as you love yourself. That neighbor is regardless of color. That neighbor is regardless of faith. That neighbor is regardless of anything else. He is your neighbor, made in God's image like you. Who are you to say he is not in God's image? Who are you to say that? Condemning God's decision? And you go and say we are praying God with that type of attitude, that type of mentality? This great young man we worship today came and said, no. My Boer friends, you can't go on like this. It can't happen.
On retirement from presidency, has been involved in various charitable activities, mainly the campaign against HIV/AIDS. At the age of 93, he is a holder of various accolades, including 2002 Supreme Champion by South Africa and the Ubuntu Award of 2007. Kenneth Kaunda is a family man, married to Betty Kaunda, with children and grandchildren. Henry Okrut, UBC.